What's up, fellow fantasy living friends? Josh here with RSMP Tabletop, and I'm beyond excited because today I finally get to bring some people onto the team that actually know about Marvel Crisis Protocol. I'm gonna introduce you to Jin, who's gonna be on your right-hand side today. He's a tournament player who does very well. He won't brag, but I will for him because he deserves it. And to be honest, everybody out in the wild in the community that I've talked to has basically said that he's either the person that taught him how to play, or he's one of the main reasons that they got into the game because how kind he is around the game, how caring he is, how knowledgeable. He is a great pillar and representative of the game of Marvel Crisis Protocol and what tabletop can be just in its own. On the left-hand side here, you're gonna see Eric. Eric actually came down to play me in a game when I went down to film the video at the Battle Standard walkthrough. So I'm super glad that you guys finally get to meet Eric and get to see his personality a little bit because I had so much fun playing with him and I think he's gonna bring a lot to the channel. Also, we have MJ, who was kind of sitting on the backside behind the cameras with me. He was sorting some cards and helping out with some unbelievable input. So you'll hear him kind of chime in at certain times. I gave a little graphics overlay for that. You're gonna notice that the title of this video is Shang-Chi and the Silver Sable, but I gotta be honest, they talk so much more than just about these characters. They talk about interactions. They give so much insight to the game and how it's supposed to be played. So whether you care about these characters or not, please stick through the video because you're gonna pick up a lot of information on here. I really hope to keep bringing these guys onto the channel for more battle reports, tactics, talks, and things like that because I think they're a wealth of knowledge and they can bring a lot to the community. So I'm gonna stop rambling now because I really want you guys to meet Jin and Eric and get to see their passion, drive, and knowledge for this game. So without further ado, here's Jin and Eric talking about Shang-Chi and Silver Sable.
So, the first model up we have is Shang-Chi, alias Shang-Chi. And we have a very interesting defensive stat block here, as you can see. So it's a 4-3-4 stat block for defenses. So he's slightly weaker to energy. He's got pretty low health for a threat model, so only 5, I think, right? Which is
yeah, it's a little scary. As someone who wants to run Shang-Chi, a 4 threat model with 5 HP is atypical.
Yeah, it's not particularly typical because, and the thing is, like in Marvel specifically, since you want to be able to hold objectives and whatnot, having 5 health does provide sort of a liability in trying to hold objectives. But maybe there'll be some technology, as you can see from this, that he can survive a little longer than most folks.
Yeah, and so maybe this is now, let's jump ahead.
Yeah, let's jump ahead. So why does the 4-3-4 seem okay with 5 health?
Well, that's because Shang-Chi is a better Iron Fist. He's got supreme martial arts, so he is the peak fighter in the Marvel world, which means that he can block attacks from range 3 and count blanks when he does his blocks.
So normally on an 8-sided die, like you only have 3 faces that will protect you from attacks, but Shang-Chi adds 2 more faces to that. So 5 out of 8 of your dice faces can now protect you from attacks.
Yeah, and having played with Iron Fist, who has a very similar ability, that doesn't count Mystic. Remember, this one also counts Mystic attacks, which is huge. It's a very strong defensive ability, and it's really fun when you're just like rolling defense dice and seeing a lot of successes, which you don't normally see when you're just not counting blanks.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, besides his defensive abilities, I think a lot of people are very jazzed about Shang-Chi's offensive capabilities as well. He's got 2 attacks on this front side. Do you want to talk about those in that case?
Sure, yeah, we could start with his builder. He's built around his builder. He hits like a tank. I mean, when you're talking about a glass cannon, that's sort of Shang-Chi. He has 6 die on his attack. That attack is a builder, so it's gaining multiple power per turn if you're dealing a lot of damage. It has the ability to switch damage types. And pretty atypical damage types, right, Jin?
Yes. So typically you'll see like, you know, something that can switch between like energy and mystic or physical and energy. This is one of the few attacks that switch between physical and mystic. So there's not a lot of models that are super great into both. Certain abilities like martial artists, for instance, like you'll get extra defenses against physical and energy attacks, but not so much against mystic. Conversely, if you have a model that has like a high mystic defense, like Ancient One or Ultron, the second version, you can switch out to a physical attack and to sort of target a softer defense, let's say.
Right, and I think that's why he's actually so good as a model, is because in MCP as a whole, you see a lot of, just generally a lot of models have high physical defense, because that also affects dodge rolls. And those models typically have lower Mystic defense. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, yeah. And even in such cases, except against Shang-Chi,
Right.
you know, a character, let's say like Iron Fist, his, you know, 3-threat counterpart, you know, won't be able to defend as well against a Mystic attack, even though he has the ability to count blanks for, what is it, energy and physical.
Energy and physical.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's very exciting. He gives him a lot of offensive pressure. He starts out with 6 dice, like on this attack. Like that is also very atypical, you know, on a 4-threat model.
Yeah, it's a big spender. I mean, usually you see that 6 dice on 5-threat models. So to see a 6 die on a 4-threat is definitely an indication that they want him to be hitting like a truck.
Yeah, it's only a few appears like Gamora and maybe a few others, but like, you know, if your baseline is like I'm starting with like a Gamora attack, that feels really good.
Yeah.
You know, who's always a powerhouse. But let's talk about the stagger trigger.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh man.
Oh boy. Okay, so stagger is a very powerful condition because you can take away essentially 1 action from a opponent. Now, I've had several games where like a stagger is a meaningful activation of whether or not Hulk gets to, like, let's say, do a lot of on the table. So when you have the higher the threat level is, and it has less actions, it feels more and more not worth the threat value of output that it gets. So now, granted, this is a critical and a shield result. So, and then you'll get the stagger trigger. So it's not going to be super common on 6 dice. Not impossible, but also not super common either. But when it comes up, I think it's going to be very impactful.
Yeah, I honestly, this just feels like icing on the cake. His builder's already so solid that a stagger on top is just, it can be brutal. If you've got this guy on the field and he just lobs an attack into Hulk, for example, and you get that stagger off, you're like, sweet. I'm so happy right now, you know, like,
yeah.
And I think we should talk about his ability, which also kind of builds off that builder.
Yeah,
right?
so like you said, he is built on his builder, right? And so there's a couple things. Let's talk about one of his superpowers, the hidden flower under the leaves. So this is a 2-cost active power, so it has to be used during his activation. Costs an action, so when this character makes a move action, he gets to then follow up with a 10,000 shaped strike attack. So for 1 action, you get the value of 2. You get the move, and you get to attack as someone for 1 action. Okay. You can only use this once per turn, but that's maybe all you need to just like set up that punch. So maybe you initially look, it's like, it's too ranged. I don't know, but that means you can move, attack. So you're essentially attacking probably from more close to a range 3 or range 4 at that point.
Right. This is his action economy, and like in MCP a lot, we talk about whether a model is good. It has to have some sort of action economy, meaning that. Wait, maybe that's not a true, fair take.
No,
but that's sort of my take on a model.
I would say that certainly action impression usually is a sign, right, of a good model. I would say not necessarily the defining aspect of every good model, but I would say one of those check boxes you can be like, is like, all right, this guy's pretty saucy. Let's take a look at what else he does, right?
Right. So if he gets thrown away, I mean, he can move back to where he was thrown, get that free attack off. He could get 2 attacks off in a move and a turn. Like, it just makes a model way more versatile, and lends to a more fun experience as well.
Yes, and so the build on this builder even further, let's also talk about his reactive superpower, 5 Elements Fist.
Yeah.
Oh boy. So for 1 power, okay, so after this character makes the 10,000 shaped strike attack, you can use this superpower and you can do 1 of 2 effects on this front side. Flow like water, which you can just have the character advance S. So imagine you have 2 power, you just move, punch the dude, and then you brought 1 more power into yourself. Let's say if you did at least 1 damage, you can now move again. So for 1 action, you've done 3 things. Insane. Not to mention there's a stagger on top of that. And then, what's the next one here?
Yeah, we got 1-inch punch, which is like a very like martial arts themed ability. So when he, after he deals the attack, he builds power. I think that's an important thing to know too, right?
Yeah.
Like you can have 2 power for that charge effect, and then you might not have any power, and you might be like, oh, I can't use this ability. But it's after the attack is resolved. So once you gain power from the effect, then you can use this ability. So the second ability, sub ability, is called 1-inch punch. You choose an enemy character within 2. Doesn't have to be the character you attacked, of size 3 or less, and push them away small. This is kind of like a Wakanda what kind of like effect I feel off of King T'Challa.
Yeah, it does feel like the 2.0 version of the Black Panther punch, right, from his original incarnation.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love the fact that you brought this up, Eric, because like when I initially read this, I thought it had to be the original character that gets pushed,
No,
and
it's
it
even
does
better.
not. So you can go in, Shang-Chi goes in, charges, punches Hulk, and then say to Captain America, "I'm pushing you away now, and you're no longer able to bodyguard your friends." As a result.
And if he hits terrain, then he gets stunned.
And then
on
he
top
gets
of that.
stunned on top of that.
That's-
And stun is a rough condition because that will throttle your power gain, and power gain is so important in this game. So yeah, so from all that tech, we can see that like Shang-Chi is definitely built around this punch doing work, and you have so many options as a result. Going back now, his second attack, a little more straightforward. What do you think of the Rising Phoenix Kick?
Yeah, so I mean, that's another. I compare Shang-Chi to Iron Fist so much because the models are very similar. Iron Fist also has a range 3. I think it's 4 die energy, cost 0, but you gain 1 power.
Oh yeah,
Right?
so it's actually funny enough, the inverse. So he's got a energy strike with a physical flying kick. Shang-Chi has a physical
that's what it
/ mystic punch with an energy flying kick.
Right.
So it's an interesting how they sort of mirrored like these characters.
I like that too. Yeah. And then you get a place off that.
You get a
that
place?
kick,
Yeah.
Which is really cool. So you can. I don't know how relevant that place is since he already has a charge.
So what's funny enough is like, so beginning of start, let's say he just builds 1 power. There's an enemy within 3 that you can't charge because you only have 1 power.
Right.
You can do the rising kick, gain the 1 power. So you hit that guy, and then you now have enough to 2 power to then charge somebody. So like you can see that he's sort of like leapfrogging off of different people to like get in tons of movement out of it. Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah,
That's
he's
sick.
absolutely sick as far as the build goes. Sicker too, I really like Dragon Chases his tail. So if you are within 2 of Shang-Chi and someone attacks him and they don't do any damage, which is not unlikely because he counts 5 out of his 8 die faces on that range
Right.
as successes, you can throw a character away, and it is an unsized throw. So like throwing
So
if
good.
Dormammu or a Sentinel attacks you within range 2, you can throw those big boys away.
Right.
And potentially either into other buildings, destroy the buildings so they take damage, or into their friends. And in Marvel, let's see, when you throw someone into another, that's a size +1, so that's 6 damage coming into a person.
It's kind of funny to think about too, like Shang-Chi literally throwing a sentinel.
Yeah.
Just taking no damage, just using all that momentum, throwing him back at his.
Yeah, no, it's
very thematic.
It's absolutely wild. So that's his front side, and already like it's like okay, so we're low on the health, but like
Right.
honestly, he might be unfair if he had 6 on the front side.
Yeah, he is a loaded model, I would say, for
Yeah.
a 4. He's very good.
Yeah, you get a good ceiling for damage, but you get so much movement and just between the stun and the stagger, which are very relevant to just really, really hamper action economy in this game.
Yeah. So Jin, how does he change on his injured side?
Oh man, so AMG mentioned that he was going to change on his injured side, and I did not understand like the amount, but it is a pretty decent amount. So I love it when characters like Green Goblin stuff like they meaningfully change right on their
I
backside.
like that too.
You get sort of a different functionality of the kit. So let's go through it. So the changes we get. So we lose the Rising Phoenix Kick, but we get Dim Mak instead.
Nice.
So it's a range 2, 10 dice for 5 energy Mystic Spender, which is just raw power.
Yeah.
But it does have the additional caveat that if the character's already been staggered, you'll get an activated token instead after this attack.
So what's the most like optimal way to use this ability?
So that's the thing. Like you can look at it in 2 ways. So if you're trying to preserve activation, you can try to hit this at a character that's already activated and just do the raw damage to them. Gotcha. But if there's a large, very scary character that you don't want activation and you've already done the work to stagger them, you can then use this to like get rid of their activation as a result. So if you have like a Thanos that you're really afraid of going, if you can stagger him with Black Hat or some other, or Luke Cage beforehand, or Shang-Chi himself, could have like staggered him with.
You hit that trigger, yeah.
Hit that trigger, yeah. You can do this to sort of like make sure that like this is an easy activation, as far as the rest of your team is going to go. I think it's very interesting. You can choose to use in that couple ways, either just for the damage or to give an activated token. But there is much more setup involved, in that case. But, I think defenders have a few ways to hit it. And if you choose to splash them, there could be, affiliated choices that sort of help this along as well.
For sure. And we see an increase in his health, right?
Yes. So,
That's the big thing.
to compensate for the 5 health on the backside, or no, the front side, we now can have 6 health on the backside in this case. So he'll be around longer. So presumably he'll have more power to work with, and he'll be able to use his late game abilities instead.
Nice.
And we do have 2 changes. So we lose the Dragon Chase's shell, so he loses the throw, and then he also loses the 5 elementals fist. Do you want to talk about one of the changes he has on the back?
Sure. Let's talk about the wild goose leaves the flock.
Okay.
So he loses the throw. The dragon chases its tail, but he gains this ability. They function very differently, and I've been told to remind you about how different these are because I think it's really important. So, dragon chases its tail is after the attack is resolved. If you take no damage, then you throw them, right? This one is when this character is targeted. So when Shang-Chi is targeted within 2, then you use the power, and it's 3. It's more expensive. And you kind of just kidnap a character, right? You you advance small, and then you place the character within one of you.
Yes.
So I think that it's a pretty fun ability. I think you can use it pretty tactfully, like if there's a secure you want someone by. Maybe it's their second attack, right?
Yes.
And they've spent their second action attacking you. You activate this ability, you kidnap them. They're no longer on the point. They can't get back there because they used all their actions.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. If you have a character that does not have a lot of action pressure, that's certainly a way for you to fix the secure situation that he's in and gives them a lot of pause, right? So if there's their second action, they're going to attack Shang-Chi. They better finish that plate, otherwise they're going to be moved off this point.
Yeah, it's going to be rough.
Yeah, no, for sure. I really like this change, and it sort of mimics. I don't know if you saw the movie, but I felt like in the beginning, right, he learns from his father, which is this very hard style, like fighting style, which is the throws, the strikes, and stuff like that. Versus later in the movie, he learns more of his other heritage style, which is softer, flowing, more
from his mother, right?
From his mother, yeah. And this sort of emulates that. So you have this hard throwing, very punchy guy, but then you have this defensibility that's very energized of you sort of going with the flow and just moving them to a place that you want them to without even them realizing it.
I love that. I didn't even notice about that. But that's they did such a good job with this character.
Good.
Yeah, it's thematic and it's powerful.
Yep. The other change we want to talk about is the 64 infinite palms. So the elemental fist in the front gave you a extra movement or the ability to move and stun someone. Now, even though it's called a different superpower, that ability to move some people with a 1-inch punch trigger is still essentially there in its full form. So that hasn't changed, which is still really good.
That's awesome.
Because again, you don't have to target this first person you originally punched with a 10,000 shape strike. But instead, you have a new trigger now called Cleansing Strike. This character removes 1 damage and 1 special condition from itself.
Yeah, it's really nice. It makes him more tanky, right?
That makes him, so that 6 health now becomes way more because every time you've now punched somebody and gained power, you could remove a condition and get a health back. So it gives them this sort of regeneration that's happening during this as well.
That's really cool. I was just thinking about him on maps like Demons Downtown or Fisk, where they can get special conditions put on them. He can take them off that way too.
Yeah. That means that anytime he starts a condition, if he gets to go first, he can just remove 2 conditions and get 2 health back, immediately.
That's good.
Yeah.
Another way around it.
Insane. And if there's any way you can possibly, I don't know, give him more attacks out of activation, perhaps from a new Defender's card, maybe this becomes even more disgusting. We'll see.
Yeah, that would be a really good segue. Yeah. We will talk about that card later on.
Okay, yeah. Just wanted to tease that a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Yep.
So, Jin, let's talk about our first tactics card here for Shang-Chi. It's called Human Weapon.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited about this card. It's an area to attack. It does have a large tax to it, right?
Yeah, it does have the 4 costs with it, and it does cost tactics cards and an action. So you are paying the slot, the power, and one of Shang-Chi's precious actions to do this. What does he get as a result?
Yeah, so it's a huge, I think it might have the payoff, right?
Right.
You're paying a lot, but then you have 6 die on an area to attack, which means you can hit multiple people if you set this up correctly. It has the Psylocke Spender effect, which is really exciting. The before damage is dealt, apply stun, which means they only get
1 power, yeah. So what this means is that no matter how much damage you do, because you're already putting the stun condition on them, they're going to only get 1 power from ever amount of damage they take. Could be 1 damage, could have been 6 damage, could have been more, but they only get 1 power.
That's brutal.
That could be very brutal.
And it's got a second part, a second trigger. It needs a crit, wild, and a shield, which is not going to come up very often, right?
No, this is more situational. It's like you said, ice on the cake, right? Just like his other stagger on his normal builder. This is a situational application of stagger, but if you get it, you're happy to see it.
Yeah.
But the one part that we didn't talk about is that he does get to move before he does this.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
So part of this tactics card's being played is that the character gets to move its speed, then makes the attack shown above. So you do get a pseudo charge effect out of this. So it's not for nothing. Gets a movement, gets an attack, and you can certainly sort of set up like, a large area of characters. Maybe they didn't realize that. It's like, oh, I put 2 or 3 characters near each other. Shang-Chi's pretty far away. I have nothing to worry about until you play this card. Your weapon comes in, and you're hitting those guys.
That kind of makes the action cost a lot better too, right?
Feels better, right? Yeah.
It's like a free charge. Like most of these cards, you actually don't see an advance before the attack. It's just an attack. I think this might be the first of its kind.
Yeah, certainly this is a rarer thing. I've seen some characters, they'll maybe get the place before that. I know, like, was it Kitty Pryde? She's got something that teleports right before she does the attack, which is pretty good. But, just having just a normal movement, so you can choose to climb. Oh, no, sorry, this is just an advance. So it's just an advance, but still an advance medium most of the time, which means that you cover a pretty good amount of distance, and they're going to hit people that you may not expected.
And you mentioned not having climb. So that means when you advance, you can't climb buildings, right?
Correct. So you won't be able to move over tall buildings with Shang-Chi before you do this, but that's okay. Typically, I think he's just going to be letted down for whatever he wants to, like, whatever problems he wants to solve.
Yeah.
Let's see, Chi Mastery though, his second card. I think this is going to be very interesting, and this is probably the card that I think we're going to see attachment more often than not.
I think so.
Yeah, so when Shang-Chi makes an attack during the modified dice step of this attack, he can spend 3 power to play this card, and then he can change 2 results in either the attack or the defense roll. So that means that you, Shang-Chi, doing the attack, you can change your 2 die things that you want to hit those triggers, get the stagger, or you're already just going in for raw damage. What you could do is you can turn off 2 of the blocks from the opponent as well.
That's pretty good. And you can change it to any die face, right?
Yes. And maybe there's characters like Amazing Spider-Man who gets power when he rolls a crit. You can turn his crits off as well. That's another way for them to sort of like help mitigate some of the additional effects that certain characters may have.
That's pretty good.
On top of their successes.
That's actually really strong. So I guess my question is, I want to hear your competitive take on this. How often do you take this card with Shang-Chi?
I think you're going to take this actually relatively often as long as you have the tactic slots available. If you have another plan with the tactic slots, I would say focus on that first. Okay. But if you have a free slot and you want to make sure that he gets his maximum amount of impact, I think this is a perfectly fine card to take. There's also, because of the timing step, I believe, will also take care of reverse pierces as well.
Ooh, interesting.
So attackers get to modify the defender's dice first before the defender modifies their dice. So certain characters like Strange Supreme, I think also, let's see.
Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel, Magic, like those characters are able to, if they show a wild, they get to change your dice face.
Right.
But they need to show that wild when they reach their step. But since your step happens first, you can turn off those wilds, okay, change those into blanks or whatever, facing that they don't want. And therefore, you get to save your die rolls being changed on their side.
So an extremely strong effect.
It's a very strong effect, yes. It's certainly a higher value when you have matchups like that. So if you're seeing, let's say, Magic, you're seeing Doctor Strange, the second version, or you're seeing Cosmic Avenger Carol. Like these are all like, or a Bishop actually has another kind of those as well. So if you see those matchups, I think the stocks on this card definitely go up and make those matchups like much more doable as far as 1v1ing him and those characters.
Very cool. I actually have a rules question. So in the way it's written, it says you can change 2 die faces in either the attack or defense roll, right?
Yeah.
So my question is, can you choose 1 and 1? Can you split them? Can you choose 1 roll in your attack dice and 1 roll in the opponent's defense dice? What do you think about that?
Ooh, you know what? I think this is a great question to throw in the comments below. Comment below, what do you guys think? Can we, due to the wording of this card, change 1 die facing per, and let's see, some arguments for or against. in that case.
I think that's a really big question because that will change. If you can do 1-in-1, this card is even better.
Yes, yes. I'm excited to see like what opinions people have on this card once it's people have a chance to talk about it.
Let's talk about Shang-Chi in his 2 affiliations, and then maybe some uses of him out in other affiliations.
Sure, yeah, we can go over that pretty quickly. So the 2 revealed affiliations that Shang-Chi is in are going to be Defenders and Avengers.
Sweet.
We can probably parlay the Defenders talk a little bit because I would think down the road we'd like to talk about the affiliations as a whole because this box and another upcoming box we're going to be talking about are going to really change the dynamic and paradigm of how Defenders are going to work in that case.
Yeah.
So it'd be good to talk about them as a whole.
Sure,
but
we could table
we
that.
should talk about Shang-Chi and Avengers.
Yeah.
There are currently, 4 leaders
Yep.
in Avengers.
Yes.
There's technically 4 leaders.
Yes, there's technically 4
For the 4 leaders. So let's see what he brings in Avengers. So under Hulkbuster, I think we can just say that he is just going to be a very hard to pin down dude because he's going to take less collision damage. Hulkbuster himself is an interesting leader, but I think we're still waiting to see if people unlock like that particular affiliation.
Yeah.
I assume though you want to talk about how is he under Steve 1?
Yeah, I think he's best under Steve 1. And so Steve 1's leadership allows you to discount your superpowers by 1 cost, right?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yep.
So under Steve 1, he's got a charge that is the hidden. Sorry, that is the hidden flower under the leaves ability, and he can do that turn 1.
Yes. Yes.
So he could just be deployed within 3, move up medium, and then use the 1 power, charge and attack. I mean, it gives him a lot of mobility in the early game.
Yeah, so what's interesting is that this sets him up sort of as a counterpunch, right? So if there are objectives on the middle of the board, basically, right, and a person chooses to stand there across from Shang-Chi, that means that he can easily move and then do this power to engage with them immediately in that case.
Nice.
So that will give him some pause, like, okay, now do I want to sit on this thing knowing that Shang-Chi is going to hit me, and if he builds power, he's just going to push me off this thing.
It's scary. I think if I was playing against an Avengers player and I saw Shang-Chi across from me, talk about a turn 0 decision, right? Like you have to be really careful of who you place across from Shang-Chi if he's already placed, or he just might wait. And then once you play your more fragile character or your extract grabber, he's going to place across from that.
Yeah, and if they're also aggressive with the back point of, let's say, a back, I believe a back E or like a back D, let's say they move to the front of it, I think potentially this actually lets him walk, charge, hit that person, and then either move on to the point or he throws that person off the point.
Wow. So under Avengers Steve 1, he is much better.
Yes, I think so.
In the early game, at least.
Yeah, it definitely like gives you a lot more pause, right, when thinking your actions, because the threat of a displacement, stun, or him just moving further is just sort of like ever there, right? On turn 1. So that's pretty scary. Every time someone hits him, Dragon Taste of the Shell, also discount by 1. So he just needs 1 power to throw you off if you don't actually hurt him. It won't discount his 5 Mental Fist or the Infinite Palm Strikes on the other side, but that's still pretty good.
Because it can't reduce to 0, right?
Cannot reduce down to 0. A minimum of 1 always. But on this backside also means Wild Goose Leap's Flock is also just 2 power now.
Oh wow, yeah. That's gonna come up way more often too.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So he just needs 2 power now to just displace you after you
And
miss
just
him with
kidnap everybody. Yeah.
Yep. So Steve 1, clearly a winner.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. And if he gets too bad, Steve 1 can also go and body block or bodyguard him, I would say, right? To protect him.
That's a good point. Yeah. And with Avengers Assemble, he could definitely reach the back.
Oh,
right?
that's right. Yeah. So like, Avengers Assemble gets him another big of movement. So like he is going to be so mobile under Steve 1 because of the, the 1 power charge, and the Avengers Assemble like ever present.
If he gains the power after it.
Something I just thought of. Since on the backside, that's when he's targeted. If he moves, puts him, because he moves him, places, goes into Captain America bodyguard range. Could Captain America bodyguard, since that superpower is done at the targeting, can he then move that guy? So say he's not within range of Captain America, he then places himself or places the other guy, with him near Captain America, then Captain America, who wasn't originally near him, he can put himself into bodyguard range. Could he do that since on the backside?
Yeah, for sure, right?
I think so, yeah. Oh, this is an interesting timing thing you
Yeah.
just mentioned, MJ. So when this character is targeted by attack, you may use a superpower
Exactly, right.
after the attack is resolved. So, okay, so you pay for this power when you're targeted. You then can spend it for Captain America.
No,
Oh.
you spend it on Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
You
Right.
move to get into range of Captain America.
No, he doesn't move until after the attack is resolved.
Oh, I thought that one was
Yeah.
when you're targeted.
No,
Okay.
you pay for it
It
when
is.
it's targeted, but it doesn't resolve until after the attack is resolved.
Got it.
So you got to choose to use it before you know the dice face and stuff. But, so, I don't know if you want to cut this in, but like this does make this very interesting in the sense that you can do some interesting targeting tricks. So
Yeah.
you can pay for this, have this power active when he's targeting an attack.
Okay.
Captain America then bodyguards takes the attack anyway,
Ooh.
and you
okay.
still resolve this attack.
Oh, wow.
You still resolve the superpower.
So that's a huge interaction specifically with Steve
When
One.
Steve won, or any
bodyguard.
any bodyguard really,
Right.
like
So
that's-
Okoye or Black Bolt.
even Taunters,
Or
you know,
another Avenger, Luke Cage in his card.
Luke Cage in his card, yeah.
Because Luke Cage could bodyguard it, then after the attack was resolved.
That's a
would
good
Luke
point.
Cage throw it, and then would Shang-Chi get placed off of the throw and then place? Because, you know, like if Luke Cage doesn't take damage, then would that resolve since you decide the order of how things are resolved?
Yeah, so because of this is all targeting step like things,
Right.
right? You can choose to use Wild Goose leaves the flock while they are targeting him within 2, and then there's a way for you to deflect that attack into another person after you've already paid for this power. You can do bodyguards, you
Well,
can
yeah,
do
Heroes
heroes
for
for hire.
Yep.
Luke Cage resolves his.
Wow.
So you get this interesting ping pong effect of like, okay, we're going to now throw this character, then place him within Shang-Chi, or you place them and then throw with the heroes for hire.
Right, and you get to choose.
You get to choose the order, I think, as long as it's all the
So
same
you
timing
could place
start.
that model like very, very far
Oh,
away.
man.
Throw with Luke Cage, then you move with Shang-Chi, and then you place off of that.
That's gonna be gross.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of interactions that go with Shang-Chi and Steve One, I think, at a competitive level, right?
Yeah.
So I think definitely he merits an inclusion, if not auto-include. But
I think you should very highly consider Shang-Chi in your Avengers 10.
So I think under Falcon, right, Sam Wilson,
Captain America.
Captain America, right? I know him first.
Captain
as
America,
Falcon.
Sam
Yeah,
Wilson, yes.
yes, the new Captain America too.
Yes.
I think he's going to be really good because I think that I've played a couple times with Shang-Chi so far, and he's very strong. Like I know a lot of people are kind of saying he's busted right now.
I wouldn't say he's busted. per se.
Yeah, but playing him, he doesn't feel busted. Like he feels like range is really important to him. He wants to
Yes.
stay within 2. So any sort of leadership that really helps him, and this kind of bleeds into the out of affiliation.
Right.
So I think he does better in like Midnight Suns or even some, like other affiliations that give him free movement.
Yeah.
Right.
I would agree. I kind of like him under Nick Fury Jr.'s leadership as well. Gives him the pseudo-aggressive, right?
Yeah.
So that means that he can set up post-action to move towards the character, and then that can let him then set up the, the Dragon Chase's tail
Yep.
on the front side. It won't help out as much with the Wild Goose on the back because of the targeting step.
Right,
But
right,
the
right.
front side though, that guy can be pretty scary to throw people.
Yeah, because his biggest weakness, I think, is people who have triggers that push, right,
Right.
on their builders or gainers or whatever, or displacement in general. I think
Yeah.
is his biggest weakness because his sweet spot is definitely within 2, and within 3. Like he actually likes being within 3.
Yes.
Because the defense counting blanks, right?
Yes.
But anything out of the 3, and he's going to be a very sad boy.
Yes, yeah. So the way you counterplay against this character. I should amend that the Nick Fury leadership does not work because he takes damage beforehand, so he won't be able to use Dragon Chase's tail.
Okay.
But going on your part,
Yeah.
that makes a very point. I think everyone should be thinking about if Shang-Chi is going to be a character that you think you're going to see very often, put in a range 4 character.
Yeah.
Because at range 4, this character is actually very normal.
Right.
So he doesn't get his blanks, so he still gets back to his 3 out of 8 die facings. So he's very easy to drop just as a 5-6 health model, right?
Yeah.
So, characters like Hawkeye, Deadpool, like any sort of range 4 character that's pretty reliable, like Moon Knight, any of these characters that attack from range 4. Black Bolt
right here.
from range 4, he's going to make Shang-Chi pretty sad.
Black Bolt makes a lot of people sad when he gets when he gets an attack.
Yeah, but, much better when he's in 3, but like, outside of range 3, like, I think Shang-Chi is very easily counterplayable. It's up to the player that's using Shang-Chi to make sure that he always is within a sweet spot as far as engagement levels of range 3 or 2.
Right. So he would really dislike a range 5 character.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, a range 5 character would be pretty awful, man. If only there was a box mate.
Oh, yeah. I wonder if there's a range 5 character that's coming out very soon.
Oh, yeah. Let's look at the other character in the box, Charlie.
Sure. Let's talk about Silver Sable now.
Yes. So Silver Sable is the box mate for Shang-Chi, which interesting that they can sort of counterplay a little bit against each other.
Yeah.
So Silver Sable is a character that is also a 5 health on the front, but then 6 health on the back. So It seems to be a new trend with AMG for this round of characters that we want, less resilient on the front, but then we'll have a backside that's more resilient. But like Shang-Chi, she also will be changing a little bit on the back. But we'll get to that in a moment.
Okay.
So baseline, what are we starting with?
All right, so we've got a 5 health 3-3-3 character, which means 3 physical defense, 3 energy defense, 3 mystic defense.
Okay, I'm not super impressed right now because of that. That's a very generic set for a 4-threat character, right? Like, I don't know.
She's fragile. She's gonna go down like a piece of paper if she gets attacked.
Okay, but we are mitigating this because she's a range 5 attacker, right?
Exactly.
And that helps a lot to keep her safe, but she also has one piece of defensive tech that we should just rattle off first off, right?
Sure.
So
let's talk about that.
Sure. So we have Sniper's Nest, which is when this character is targeted by a physical energy attack, if the character is overlapping a terrain feature, size 3 or more, the attacking character and is not overlapping that same terrain feature, this character adds 2 dice to its defense rolls. It's very wordy, but basically, if she's like Sniper, perched up on a size 3 terrain or more, and that same character that's attacking her is not on that same piece of terrain, that means she gets to add 2 more dice. So that becomes a 3-3 stat line to a 5-5-3.
Oh, that's really strong. So she should always be sort of perched up if this was like a size 5.
So true to flavor, AMG wants you perched up on some sort of terrain in that case as a role. And coincidentally, this is one of the characters that does not have stealth, which I would expect, but I think that would have been too much.
Yeah, she's got the defensive.
Yeah, but accompanies that, they do give her a wall crawler, which is interesting.
That's cool.
Yeah, so that means that she's able to climb up terrain like very easily. So she scales all the terrain features that she needs to with a single move action, like just fine.
Wow, that's pretty. Yeah, that's good. Because I was worried that climbing small to get up to your building, you might not have the range that you want to attack after that.
Right. Yeah, and she does have any action compression as far as action movement for herself, unfortunately.
But she does have action compression for other people.
Yes. So that'll be also a good thing we can talk about in a moment.
Yeah.
The attack that for Silver Sable, she starts up with Tactical Takedown, range 5, 5 dice. So
that's good.
5 is
builder.
A 5 range attack is very rare in this game, like for the most part. There's only a select few, and that's like the classic like sniper style characters like Hawkeye and whatnot. Right. So now you have a character that does that, range 5 for 5 dice. It's a gainer though.
It's a gainer, I should have said that.
Yes, it is a gainer. So it seems like initially at start, like Silver Sable will not be building a lot of power, but you have the ability to touch bill and get a consistent power.
Right.
2 triggers. First one is Tranquilize. So you get a crit, you tranquilize them, and you give them the root condition.
Nice.
In that case. Root condition is great because it taxes everyone's superpowers, and we know superpowers can make or break certain characters.
Yeah, right.
So like Beta Ray Bill, Juggernaut, they depend on a superpower to reduce damage to them. So that costing 2 all of a sudden makes that harder.
Very strong.
To do.
Yep.
You have characters with throws or charges, those now are taxed at, up to like what, 3 power or 2 power or 3 extra power now.
Right.
And then we have a crit wild trigger bringing you in. After this attack is resolved, the character may push the target character towards his character S.
That's really neat.
Unsized.
Oh, wow. So
Unsized.
So she can just pull in. I don't know how that works thematically, but bringing you in, maybe she's got like a tether attached to her gun.
I'm thinking that this is, Saber International setting up traps and, pulley systems and stuff.
Nice.
We're doing the Rube Goldberg machine to pull the character in,
So she's pulling in Hulk after she shot him at range 5.
Yes, yes.
And then maybe she's doing her spender?
Maybe. So let's see. This spender is very interesting. So we have headshot, range 5, 6 dice for 3 power. If the target character is not within 3 and does not benefit from cover. So essentially thematically exposed in the open.
Yep.
If this attack would deal damage, increase the damage dealt by 2.
Wow.
So initially you start off with 6 dice, which you think is pretty middling for that, but the fact that you can shoot up 2 extra damage is pretty significant.
Yeah, we've not seen an effect like this in the game yet, right?
No, yeah, it's like it's the opposite of like there's a lot of damage reduction that like it's like if you would deal damage, you just reduce damage by 1. This is the first time that if you do damage, you increase the damage instead.
So from like in a tournament setting, right?
Yep.
Is this making the damage more even? Like, let's say you did a lot of attacks like this.
Yeah.
Could you expect better results over time?
Well, it sort of changes the minimum damage, right?
Okay.
So that's the thing. Like if you are doing at least 1 damage to headshot,
Oh, you're dealing 3.
you're minimum doing 3.
That's huge.
Which means it's going to drop like a lot of characters, like sitting at 1 or 2 damage, even with some sort of damage mitigation, right?
Right, right.
So-
How about exceptional healing?
Ooh, so I think because of the timing step.
Right?
Yeah.
That might be another rules clarification we need for you in the comments. If you guys know the answer to this, please chime in. I think there's a really interesting interaction.
Let us know what
here.
you think. Yeah, there's a very
I
great
don't know the
interaction
answer.
between the time of this, but also team tactics cards that can react to this. You should also note that this has a great trigger on a crit after the attack is resolved. The character gains the stun special condition.
That's really good.
Yeah.
So she's affecting the power economy of the enemy models.
Greatly, yes. So between root and stun, that can really shut down the entire kit of certain characters as well.
Wow.
Like I think about Beta Ray Bill, if he's stunned, can't generate that much of a power from his Asgardian leadership nor his attacks.
Wow.
And then if everything is taxed by additional 1 power, most of the kit ends up getting kind of turned off, like at a certain point.
She can really hose characters if she just perches up on a like a back 5 or back size 4
Yes.
model, right? Or
Yeah.
terrain. That's
Yep.
really cool.
I think that's very interesting. And now let's go the synergistic action impression he gives to our friends, right? So we got shot caller. What do you think about this power?
Yeah, I think this is actually one of the reasons I'm most excited about her. I think a lot of people are excited about Headshot, but I love Shot Caller. We're going to talk a little bit about affiliations that she kind of works better in.
Sure.
But so I'm going to read it out. So basically, she chooses another allied character within 4, advances it small, right? It costs 3 power. Then that chosen character gains 1 power. So you're kind of paying a premium. You're paying 3, which is not easy to get on her, I think.
Yeah.
Right. But the model gains a power. That in and of itself is really strong. We see that on like characters like Wong.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
But then also allowing them a free advance can really change the dynamic of a game, right?
Yeah, this is a strictly Feder field leader. If you think about Scott Summers, Cyclops,
Right.
he has a power very similar. Choose another friend. You get to move them a short distance for 3 power.
Wow.
This has the additional benefit of giving them another power on top of that. So
It's good.
This is the Cyclops 2.0 field leader that we're looking at here.
I think the only difference is this can be used once per turn, right? Can field leader be used multiple
Yeah,
times?
that one
Okay.
can be used multiple times. So that's the difference from this. But probably for the better because this could probably get out of control.
Yeah, I think it'd be a little too broken if you could do it multiple times
Yeah,
per turn.
but for the most part, though, field leader is usually used just once anyway in that case. So we can say that like this is like the good version, I would say.
Cool. Yeah, I think we'll be talking about this a lot when we talk about affiliations.
Yeah. The other power on our front side is very good. I want my help, pay up. So essentially the way this reads, it's very wordy, but when an ally within 4 makes an attack, they can pay her 2 power, essentially the pay power step. Okay.
Okay.
So, sorry, I should say that they lose 2 power during the pay power step. She'll get a power, and then they get a die
That's really strong.
extra on their attack.
That's cool.
So you think about certain characters that like maybe they don't usually get extra dice, would be kind of silly. This now becomes interesting. So let's say rapid fire characters usually are based on 4 dice. They get 5 dice. That can be pretty scary. You think about Kitty Pryde, who turns off people's crits, like within range 2 with a 4 die attack. Normally just 4 die attack keeps it reasonable, but when she has really 5 dice and they can't count any crits,
Yeah.
that becomes a much scarier attack, right?
Much scarier, yeah.
Yeah, so I think, especially if you can get this on a character on a builder, if their builder is very, very powerful, then you can get back dividends as far as power goes.
Yeah.
So this is very interesting.
And this can be only used once per turn, but I could see this happening multiple times in a round,
Yes.
right? Basically setting her up for at least one headshot, but maybe even two.
Yeah.
Right.
Or more shot callers, right? When
True.
she gets her turn up. So although she starts up with just gainers, and you think it's like, okay, well, this is going to be a very stable thing, it's even more stable because now, as long as you have other friends that are willing to contribute 2 power during each of their turns to get this extra dice when we're in 4 of her, she's getting a ton of power and they're getting a die, right? So it's
Yeah,
a very
right.
synergistic ability. It's amping up the other characters, but makes her kit stronger as a result.
That's solid.
Yeah.
Should we just jump to the injured side? Does she change very much on her injured
So
side?
there's one difference now. So the Wama Help Pay Up is no longer there. So you can't get the interesting power dice engine, but instead we're given an interesting new reactive power called Protect the Asset. So when an enemy character within 4 of this character targets an allied character with an attack, if the allied character is holding an asset or civilian token, this character may superpowered. After the attack is resolved, this character may use a tactical takedown targeting the attacking character. You can only use once per turn.
Okay.
So essentially, big words, but basically means that if there's a friend within 4 being attacked that's holding an objective,
Yep.
basically she can take an attack, gainer attack onto them.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that's an out of activation attack that you get.
Yep,
from her.
for 2 power.
For only 2 power.
Which, she'll gain back 1 power automatically. So net cost is basically 1 power for her to do this each time. But
Right.
but you're rolling 5 dice, you're possibly putting a bunch of condition on them, you're possibly displacing them.
Possibly even ending their activation early.
You could
if
also end their activation early, yeah.
Wow.
Like, it's got a lot of different uses, I think, in that case. But otherwise, 6 health in the back, no other changes otherwise
Okay.
in that case.
So, what do you think her impact will be, at least in the tournament setting?
So I think there's a lot of discussions about what she brings. I think what she brings initially on the front side is an interesting power engine. Like I said, it synergizes with good builders so that the 2 power you spend for that additional die is going to be worth the power you give to her, and then maybe more power, and then some back in the die that you're talking with.
Right.
So I think it's going to lose a little value when you're buffing up a gainer.
Right,
in that
right,
case, you're just you're looking for triggers, or you're looking for just
Or just more damage. Yeah.
Which is perfectly fine as well, very reasonable. That's the floor.
Right. That's the floor, right? And it gets better with a builder, right?
It gets better with a
Yeah,
builder,
yeah.
that could potentially net you a lot more power,
Nice.
as a result. So I really like that synergistic superpower. You have to just make sure that she's protected and watch your ranges as far as like her being attacked or someone occupying the same building as her.
True. Yeah.
'Cause-
So, go ahead.
So if you can put her on a building that doesn't allow another person to sit on the same building,
Right.
I think she's going to get her dice, right?
Right.
So that's probably the sweet spot you want to get, but I don't know. That's going to be very terrain dependent. And what I like about this character is that you're going to look at maps closer than ever before, right? It's like you're going to think about what buildings are in your deployment zone or what are near objectives
Yep.
that you want to think about like perching her on in that case.
Yeah, we talk about that turn 0.
Yes.
That turn 0 is very important, and typically, the person who loses priority on the dice roll chooses the map edge,
Yes.
right? And typically, that doesn't come up that often. I feel like a lot of people are just, I'm already set up. I don't want to have to move to the other side, right?
Yeah.
But with her, you might want to move to the other side because there might be a sweet size 5 terrain that you want to perch her up over.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited too because the folks that like to play this game, more kitchen table and that's perfectly great. I think usually you just stay on your edge, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just convenient.
Yeah.
This kind of makes them want to get but I want that building over there.
Yeah.
And I think even at the kitchen table level, if you want to get up now and think about that, I think that's very interesting that this character makes you do that.
Yeah, it makes me want to buy the Sorcerer Supreme building.
Oh,
the size
Torb?
5, right?
Oh my!
And where she can stand on the building, and there's not room for a medium or a large size character.
If you sit in the middle of that, I think it's
Yeah.
actually a little awkward to
Yeah.
put that's
Right?
consideration. Maybe Juggernaut doesn't get to join you up there.
There we go.
Yeah.
Headshot for days. All right, so let's talk about her tactics card.
Yep, there's just one. Let's talk about Sable International. Silver Sable's only tactics card. It's unaffiliated, so any team can use it with her on
Sweet.
it. So during your activation, Silver Sable may spend 4 power to play this card. This round, each time Silver Sable dazes or KOs an enemy character, you gain 1 victory point.
I love that extra effect. I like I love whenever a card gives you victory points, I'm high up on them. you know?
Yeah, I think this especially goes up in value, right? If there is a grunt character, let's say.
True.
So if Silver Sable takes out that grunt character, that's a VP automatically.
That's sweet.
Yep. Well, you gotta hit it, but still, you're
I
gonna
mean, the grunts have like 1 or 2 defense die, right?
Most time they have only 1 physical defense, and
Yeah.
it is a rough time to be a grunt being attacked by Silver Sable.
True.
Yep.
So I think this card has legs, right?
Yeah. So one thing I really like about it is that it's for the entire round, right?
Right.
So you have ample opportunities to do it, especially you have her 2 attacks.
Yep.
But if there's a way for you to give her additional attacks, you know, perhaps there's a defender's card that lets you do that, or perhaps, you know,
Her injured side, she has a free attack.
yeah,
Isn't that
a
right?
free attack, yeah, that lets you do that.
Well, I
So
think it's 2 power, but yeah.
yeah, but on her injured side, I think this becomes like a lot more valuable, right? Because then you have out activation attacks as well.
That's pretty solid. So in Magical Christmas Land,
Yeah,
right,
Magical Christmas Land. Let's talk about it.
where she starts with, let's say, 10 power,
Yep,
right?
okay.
She costs 4 to play this card.
Yep.
And then she, let's say, does 2 of her, let's go easy, let's go gainers. Right?
Okay. Yep.
And Daisy's a grunt, and you say a character with 1 HP or
Yep.
something, right?
Yep.
So she's got 2 VP from her activation, right?
Yeah. For 4 power, you've just gained yourself 2 VPs right there.
And so then she would go back up to 8 power,
Yes.
okay? Which means you have 4 out, you know, Magical Christmas Land, right?
Yeah. You have 4 protect the asset opportunities.
4,
Right?
right. And so that's potentially 4 more victory points you could get just in that round.
Potentially, yes. Yeah.
Plus the card, so that's 1 more.
6, because you get 1 power each time you do it, so you could get 2 more, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
True. Oh, true.
Yeah. So you're gaining back a power
Wow.
each time. So like, I think people may be sleeping on this card depending on like it, but obviously very matchup dependent.
Right.
Obviously, if you go into a 3 wide list with 3 beefy boys, like you know, as the opponent's list, this is probably a harder card to play. I would say.
Yeah, right. I wouldn't take this against a Hulk or anybody with damage reduction. Like a
Right,
Rhino.
yeah. If this is a Thanos list, this is a harder proposition, let's say. But against Y teams, because there are a lot of Y teams these days, you know, Shield likes to run wide, Web Warriors likes to run wide. You know, these are, you know, models that can drop to a 5-die attack, you know, potentially.
That's pretty good. I think I love cards that gain victory points. I love Terragenesis as an Inhumans player. And that has a 3 power cost, right?
Yep.
And it gains 2 victory points. So I think this card is maybe even better than that because it's 4 power. Sure, it's 1 more power, but the potential to gain way more victory points, right?
Yes.
Is there.
It should be noted that this is also in Dazes or KOs. So
Right.
I believe Punisher has a similar card, but I believe that it works only on KOs typically.
Yeah, it's only KOs.
Yeah.
So this is a strict upgrade from that.
Yep. So
So good card?
good card. I would say, yeah. Just that Silver Sable has to be able to pull the trigger, but her kit is designed to do that, and I think that should be an exciting card to see on the table.
I think you take it even if you have to spend 2 actions to kill 1. Dude, what do you think about that?
I would say that, like, yeah, if it's a tight enough game, that could be the meaningful difference.
Gives
right?
you 1 victory point.
It could be the meaningful thing. But I would say that ideally you would like to set up on her injured side, and that's when, like, you know, again, gives the enemy a lot of pause, right? It's like,
Right.
if I attack this guy, am I willing to risk them getting another VP? You could be on 15. If you are on 14 or 15 victory points and you gain this victory point automatically, the game ends as soon as you get 16, man.
Oh, wow. You don't even score out the end of the round?
Nope. As soon as you get 16, you win.
Okay, this card is scary then.
It can be scary, like especially at that end game, right? So
Right.
I believe this is going to be an end game card.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And it definitely requires you to have a lot of dice luck and stuff like that.
dice
but-
setup and stuff like that. But like I don't think you're out of your mind to like put this in your 10. Like I think it's very interesting, and against certain matchups, I think it gives people like an interesting option to win out the game, to close it out at the end of the day.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So you want to talk about her affiliations? AMG's recently told us what affiliations she's going to be.
Yeah, so she's in, Silver Sable is in Criminal Syndicate. That's a shout out to somebody's podcast. She's in Criminal Syndicate and Web Warriors and Defenders.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
So we're gonna kind of shelve the discussion on the Defenders because we have another video that's gonna talk about all these characters
In
the
Defenders
Defenders
Defenders,
boxes
yes.
about the Defenders. So I'm going to start with the Criminal Syndicate. Is that cool?
Yeah, let's start with Criminal Syndicate. Which leader do you want to start with?
So there are 3. I'm going to start easiest to hardest, in my opinion.
Okay, sure,
All right,
sure.
so I'm going to go with Kingpin.
Okay.
So his leadership and her, I don't think is going to matter that often, right? Like counting as 2 characters on a secure.
Yep.
If she's getting contested, first of all, I don't think I'm going to put her on a secure, personally,
Oh, okay.
right? I think maybe a back E.
So this is again like map
D?
dependent, right? So
Right.
if you have a back like a B or a D or an E that is near a building that
Right.
you can be on there, I'd say that like you should consider her. I will say though that given the fact that she does have ability to move her friends, right? That can move them onto a point if they get displaced off a point, and you want to be able to get back on a point with Kingpin's team.
That's a good point.
And 2, she can also, since it's a sizeless push towards, she could try to fish that trigger to pull them off of secure
Ooh.
as well.
Yeah, so she doesn't benefit directly herself from the leadership, but she really helps your other teammates.
Yeah, I
your
think she
other characters.
falls into the game plan a little bit, but the tricky part, you're correct, is that you have to protect her from being dazed herself, basically, or KO'd in that case.
Well,
So
I see it being really good then.
yeah, so I would say terrain dependent, but then the tool she brings is going to be very interesting.
Well,
Nice.
consider this. So playing Kingpin, there's 2 parts to the leadership. If you have her on the back point of an E, the second part of that leadership lets you pass things back. So think of it like the football. She's sitting on that back point, sitting on that point, shooting people from range 5. You have somebody on the midline now passes the secure or the extract back to her with the second part of that extract, to get it farther away from the midpoint. And if we think of how Kingpin's leadership works, you count as 2. So if you're sending somebody all the way back and it's just a 3-point model, she's still going to be able to keep that secure because she counts for 2. And
Right.
for Kingpin, I have found the first half of the game you're playing secures and then using her on her backside where she kind of does more damage. You then use that card to get those extra VPs because you now have to change your game plan. You no longer count
That's a
as
huge
2
one.
on secures anymore, so you have to find those extra VPs where you can. So I
Right.
think that she kind of does that in thematics. On that front half, when she's healthy, she's trying to count for 2, but on that backside, she's trying to kill people.
Right. I think
Extra VPs.
that's a huge point, and bringing up the mission objective ability where you can pass and extract, right? I think that has pretty cool uses. You can pass it off to someone, and then you could protect the asset on them, right?
Yeah, and Silver Saber herself could also pass the objective that she was passed previously onto another model. So if they attack them out, she can then line up her protect the asset.
That's pretty sweet. So yeah, so I think there's a lot of legs with her and Kingpin,
I think
more
s-
than I initially thought.
Yeah, at first glance, you're not sure, but I think, yeah, MJ's correct that once you dive into the asset passing itself, that can be very interesting how it interacts with the backside of her abilities.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, so then we'll talk about the second leadership, the Shadowland Daredevil leadership.
Yeah.
So that lets you re-roll a die, an attack dice, when you are attacking a model that is contesting a secure or holding an objective.
Right,
Holding
and,
extra.
and that can even be a skull that gets rerolled, actually.
Yeah, that's huge.
And the other thing is that unlike most reroll attack dice leaderships, his is not subject to a once per turn ability either.
Oh, that's pretty sweet. So
Yeah.
you can do it multiple times. So both of her attacks, basically.
Yeah, both for attack, she is allowed to modify the dice as long as she's attacking someone that's doing something mission related.
Right, and I think that's really good because it helps her damage output. So that means if you really want to get that at least 1 damage on headshot, let's say you need to deal 3 to a
Yep.
model, that's going to help you get that
Yep.
that minimum floor that's going to get raised up by that spender headshot.
Yep.
And I think it's just going to help her overall because she's just going to be most of the time she's going to be shooting at least once because she has a range 5 attack, but hopefully twice, right?
Yep.
So you're going to maximize the use of that leadership, right?
Yeah, I think so. And also it helps out Shadowlands Daredevil, who typically has a lot of trouble engaging enemies because he doesn't have a lot of action compression.
Right.
And usually wants to attack people with a medium move, range 2 attack. That might be hard to set up, but if you have a character that maybe potentially pulls the enemy closer to them, like with the root, so they have lower defense abilities,
Yep.
that can help set them up to hit them, summon the ninjas again, and do a lot of damage as
Yeah.
a result.
And he loves shooty lists, so I think she fits kind of right in there too.
Yeah. Also, because he has mobility issues, a shot caller also helps him get around.
That's true. Yeah, that's huge. And adding an extra die to your other rapid fire models, ideally,
Yes.
it's going to be pretty good too.
I think it's a good synergy, in all those models that you want to take for Shadowlands Daredevil.
All right, so we'll talk about our final leader in Criminal Syndicate, which is...
There actually is one more, but I'll let you talk about this one first.
Okay. Who am I forgetting? Oh, man. All right, let's go with the third one.
Okay, let's talk about your first one, and I'll tell you about the last one.
We'll go with the MODOK 2. All right.
Okay, MODOK 2.
So MODOK 2 is he's got a unique leadership that basically, when you're attacking or defending against a character that is, I think, contesting a secure, right, or holding an extract, so kind of similar to Shanlan Daredevil.
Yep.
If you roll a wild, you can change one of the die results in your pool to either a hit or a shield.
Yes. Oh, I should correct. It's in this case, instead of the enemy holding the objective, it's you. You, the Criminal Syndicate player's character, right? That character has to be holding the objective or contesting the objective.
Right.
Then yes, you're correct. Afterwards, the wild will give you either an extra hit or a shield facing on offense or defense.
Yeah. So I think we could quickly sum this up, and I think it's pretty good, right? Like, it's going to make her more consistent. She's probably going to be on a back secure.
Yeah.
Right. She might be holding an extract at some point. I don't foresee it happening.
Yeah. This one has probably the least amount of synergy because it doesn't really help her hit any of the triggers, but you're looking for, like, I believe, a wild and crit in the first place.
Yeah.
So you need to already have those to sort of get that extra hit. So all it really does is just help her slightly do more damage or slightly defend better.
Right. It doesn't help her get her triggers.
Unfortunately not. Yeah. But MODOK himself does appreciate extra dice, as always, because he's got a good builder.
Yeah.
And also, he's a short mover. So another short move is like an entire action for him.
True. Okay. So who is this fourth mysterious leadership which I've missed out of Criminal Syndicate?
Simon from the Montreal Shark Tank would not be pleased if I forgot about Claw.
Okay, the vodka blitz special.
Vodka blitz special, yes. There's other players too, but I love Simon, and I would be remiss to not mention him.
Yeah.
So Claw, he gets the move whenever a character dies, basically, right?
Okay.
So this is going to be more matchup situationally, like for a setup, but because he's such an expensive character, right?
Yeah.
I believe he's like a 5
He's
threat.
a 5 threat.
5 threat, great builder though, but he has a hard time moving around unless he has his leadership. Right. So as your characters die or get dazed, and as the opponent's characters daze or KO'd, he'll get to move short each time. Range 5 attacker though does set that up, especially if they squish your target. So if you have a Gwent character, I think Silver Sable definitely helps you, make sure that you get to move Claw up quite a bit, right?
Right.
And Claw himself can also take, synergistically, Shadowlands Daredevil or Electra to have those characters daze and move them up as well. So Silver Sable, I think, is just going to help with the, moving him around a little bit extra. So like every Criminal Syndicate leader, it seems like common theme-wise, looks like they always appreciate the shot caller extra movement.
Yeah, I think she's again, we talk about another good model, right? Who has got a ton of utility. I think when I saw her card spoiled first, right? Yeah. I was like, wow, this model is very unique in the game because she can move. She can do a lot. She has a Wong effect. She has a placement effect. She's a long mover. She loves different types of terrain. I think she's going to have a lot of use in all of the Criminal Syndicate leaderships.
Oh, just the medium movement, I should say.
Oh, just the medium movement.
But it's a wall crawler though.
Right, that's true. Right, I said long, right?
Yeah, my fault. But still though, wall crawler, medium movement, still very respectable. As a Web Warriors player, totally fine with that.
Yeah. So I think she's a great Criminal Syndicate model.
Yeah.
Let's talk about her use in Web Warriors, your alma mater.
So I'm primarily a Web Warriors player. It's my love in this game that I think they're a very interesting team to play. Very mission focused. So we now have a range 5 character in Affiliation, and that's very interesting because it sets up a new kind of, I guess, extract focus. So Gwenem, which is another character that gets to attack characters that attack your friends. Right? She is also on her backside, also kit out to do that.
Right.
So potentially now in Web Warriors, let's say if she's flipped and there's also Gwenem nearby, that's 2 attacks now in Affiliation that can attack a character that's trying to attack one of your friends that has an extract on them.
Interesting. So kind of it reminds me of Shield with a got your back sort of effect.
Yes, we're getting closer to that got your back style effect without having had to daze. They just need to attack the character that was holding an asset. To trigger, for Silver Sable specifically, Gwenem can just attack anybody that's attacking friends.
That's super cool. So you think she has she just kind of helps you go into this different type of Web Warrior gameplay.
Yes,
very cool.
And the Wong effect is very interesting because there's characters, let's say Spectacular Spider-Man. He is throttled by the fact that all of his stuff is gainers, but if you have something that can give him a movement and an extra power, like his kit, to be able to throw people, push people around or just web swing to get to objectives becomes very interesting. All webbed up is a card that's applicable to Silver Sable.
Wow.
So the way all webbed up works for people for reminders, basically once all webbed up is played, there's an AoE slow effect that gets dispersed. And for that round, if you have the slow effect, Web Warriors affiliated characters get 2 extra dice on you, 2 extra dice.
Dang.
So your gainer that can, root and push people into is around 7 dice base now. Your headshot that does extra damage is on an 8 dice base now.
Oh my god.
So it's incredible.
Yeah, that ceiling goes up like crazy, right?
Yes.
So if you get all 8 dice, potentially, you can deal 10 damage to a model.
Yeah, if they don't, there were only no blocks, right?
Right.
And that's not counting the fact that there's any crits that convert.
Right. Right.
Like it's kind of insane.
That
right?
is actually pretty insane.
Yeah, and then she gets access to the Web Warriors cards. So like in that case, like she could be a person that can pay for the Mass Menace trigger. Right. She can protect herself using Spire Tracker. So if they do a move action, get within 4 bits, she can just get out of there before it gets really bad.
Yeah.
She
She really likes Mass Menace, right? Because it gives you power too.
Yeah, it gives her additional power. Yeah,
Right.
so that sort of solves some of the initial power problems that she might have.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so she's generally very well with that. And then Miles' leadership, I think, is going to be probably the default to just keep her alive.
Yeah.
I think for the most part. It's going to be hard to use Amazing Spider-Man's leadership because that requires you to be within 2 of the character to give them a slow.
Okay.
It does, if they get near you, you can like give a slow on them, then to walk away. As part of the part of the interaction that you have for a turn.
True. I don't see many people using this the Amazing Spider-Man.
Amazing Spider-Man is definitely I'd say like this. That's a topic for
that's a whole
video. But I would say it's hard to use. So but not not impossible. I would say. Right. But for now, like let's just say with the Miles reroll, she'll be even more tankier. I think, and that's going to be really good for her.
Very cool.
Just to keep her around the board longer.
Am I missing a mysterious third leadership in
No,
Web Warriors?
there's no mysterious third leadership. We could talk about Hellfire Club, but I would rather not.
Yeah, no. So out of Affiliation, any specific uses? I've one, but.
Let's talk about that one. Yeah.
So it's a selfish one. So as the Inhumans player, I think she solves a lot of our problems in Inhumans. Right. She is and probably like all the affiliations that really lack sort of movement in their leaders, I think she'd be really good for. So for example, Black Bolt, he's got a great builder, but he's not mobile as a character himself. So he wants to be able to double tap people. He wants to be able to attack people twice. So her moving him up, getting a double attack is great. He also gains 2 power a turn, which funds her extra die attack. So suddenly he's going from 6 die to 7 die with Pierce energy at a range 4. That's premium when you're talking about attacks on a 5-threat model.
Yeah.
Right? So I think there's a lot of synergy there, and I'm super excited for it.
Yeah. So like some of the criminal syndicate leaders talking about, right? Characters like Black Bolt do benefit greatly, right?
Yeah.
From this, and the added benefit is that Black Bolt can also protect her pretty well with the bodyguard.
Right, and her one downside I think is power generation, and with the Inhuman leadership, you could shunt her power. You could pass the power to her.
Yeah, you get such an interesting energy engine, right? Because you can like enhance your builders, give her power, and then leadership for power, so she can get the 3 power pretty quickly as an Inhuman.
Right, and pass it back out. It's pretty. I think there's a lot of applications with her in Inhumans. How do you think she'd be under Avengers, MJ?
Everything's better when it costs 1 less. So
that's true.
Somebody to stand next to Hawkeye and blast you from range 5. Can't beat that. 6
dice Hawkeye is pretty juicy, actually.
It's pretty nasty. Yeah. Any other affiliations you think she'd be?
I'm sure there's others, but they're running a pretty
That's
long
fair.
list, so
That's fair.
let's move on.
All right, sounds good.
In that case, but yeah, that'll be the end of this particular video on the Silver Sable with Shang-Chi box. Hope you like this. If you like, please click on the next video, and we'll see you there.
All right, see you. Thank you.